Hello, my comrades. Today I'm going to show you another bean recipe. This recipe is a little fancier than the other one. So I'm making a white bean and smoked hamhock dish. This is an Italian-inspired dish. And the first thing that I'm doing, of course, is soaking my beans. So 2 cups of white beans and just leaving them overnight in water in a jar. And they will expand quite a lot. All right, so here's my beans after staying overnight in water. They're looking good. Here's the rest of my ingredients that I'm going to use. So I have some beans, of course, like I already showed you. I am going to drain these, and I also have onions, both yellow and red onion in this one. I have garlic, I have 2 carrots, medium sized, I have a sprig of parsley, I have some dry herbs, it's just like a mix of Mediterranean herbs. I have some Parmesan rinds. You should never throw out your Parmesan rinds. Put them in soups and stuff, it's really good. I have some truffle salt. This is kind of like for finishing the dish. And then I also have just normal salt, of course. And also some dry sage that I'm going to put in this. I'm also going to use some chicken stock, but that's optional. And here, of course, is the star of the dish, the smoked ham hock. So I'm using half a ham hock. I work in a butcher store, so I just like have my own hocks, so to speak. But you can totally ask if you have a butcher, you can ask if they can have it for you, or you can just use a whole as well. That will just give even more flavor and like more meat into this. But I usually use a half one because, you know, it stretches a little longer like that. Anyways, I'm just cutting up my onions. I'm going to chop them finally in my food processor. And you can just do this by hand if you don't have a food processor. That's totally fine. I do pretty like fine cut, and then I'm just gonna fry the onions to start. So I'm just basically making a sofritto, which is the base of a lot of Italian stews. For example, ragu has a sofritto, and this recipe as well. So this is something you see a lot in Italian cooking, and that can be like onion, carrot, celery. I'm not using celery here. I'm just putting like onion, carrot, and garlic, basically. That's my sofritto in this recipe. I'm putting my garlic and my carrot as well in the food processor, and I'm just going to chop them up really finely. Again, you can just do this by hand if you don't have a processor. Alright, so I want a pretty fine chop on all of the vegetables that I'm putting in here. Finally, draining my beans. I'm using just white beans, as you can see. They have, of course, expanded quite a bit from soaking. And I'm also just chopping up my parsley. I'm saving some of the parsley to like put in at the very, very end to just have like that contrast of both cooked herbs and also fresh herbs when we're eating the soup. So here's my onions. They're brown quite a bit, so I'm adding my carrots to this and the garlic as well that's in the mixture. And just letting this go for a few more minutes and adding some salt as well, just to help release some liquid, and also just salting every step of the way. It's pretty important to build the flavor as well. So these cooked for a few more minutes, and I'm adding all my beans. I'm just gonna pop them in there and basically assemble the rest of the ingredients in this pot. So this is basically all the work right here. And then after this, we're just gonna let it sit for a long time. So here is my dry herbs, including the sage and the dried Mediterranean herbs. Just putting that in there. I'm putting my parsley in there. And I'm gonna also chop up some for later, but that's going in there. Of course, I'm putting in my lovely ham hock that's smoked. And this is going to provide a lot of stock to the base as well, to the like bean broth. So this has amazing flavor. Really, really good. I also had a little bit of chicken stock in the freezer, just a little like cup of it. So I ended up putting that in. This is totally not necessary because you're making your own stock with the ham hock as well when you have it with bone in, of course. But I just wanted a little, like, I wanted to use this chicken stock and also add a little bit more flavor. So if you have it on hand, you can totally use it. It does not hurt at all. In fact, it's really good. So I just ended up putting a little bit of water in there and mixing everything around. And that's like pretty much it until the next morning, what I'm going to do. Because I usually make this in the evening and then I'll just let it sit all night. And then the day after I'll shred the meat, like, take out the bones and whatever. And as you saw also, I added some olive oil in this broth situation. It's just because, you know, beans need a lot of fat and salt. And that's totally fine. And I think this looks so beautiful, honestly. Look at this lovely broth with the beans and the ham hock and the herbs and the oil. Yes, so yummy. All right. So this ham hock is already a little bit salty, of course. Usually ham hocks that are smoked are also salted. At least in Norway. I think it's probably pretty common everywhere. So just remember to I mean, you have to salt this obviously either way because beans need a lot of salt, but just keep in mind that there is already salt in the meat as well. So don't over salt it either because you can't take that back. All right, so here's the next day. It's been cooking all night and I'm just kind of fishing out the bone here. And I'm going to also take out the pork skin. I just left that on when I put it in the broth, but I usually tend to take it out when it's been boiling for a while. You know, pork skin can be really delicious, definitely, but I don't particularly like the texture of like pork skin that's been boiled for 7 hours. So I usually take it out, but you know, that's a kind of a preference thing. If you want to keep it, that's totally fine. You can even like slice it up thinly. I'm sure it would probably be good. Maybe you can even no, maybe not fry it because it would have too much water. But anyways, I'm shredding it here, just little pieces of meat that I took off the ham hock. I'm also removing the Parmesan rinds. They have made the sauce really creamy and nice, and also provided a lot of that umami flavor that this kind of gets hit from different angles. So it has like the Parmesan, it has the smoked ham hock that provides kind of an umami flavor, and like the beans, the truffle salt, all of those things provide a lot of savoriness because the beans are also really creamy. Yes, so I'm just adding those fresh herbs at the very end and mixing them all in, and this is to just provide like a little bit of freshness to all of that savory, all the savory elements in the food, or in this like bean situation. Anyways, so here you can see the finished product. You can just serve this like kind of like a soup with some toast. Put it on the toast. It's really good. I ended up making some spinach gnocchi here, and I added the beans kind of like a sauce to the gnocchi, and that was also really, really good actually. It's kind of like a little dumpling soup with smoked ham hock and beans. It was nice. But as well, I'm sure there are other ways you could eat this, like even just putting them just on toast. The beans are so creamy and nice, and like the richness from the ham hock really kind of is infused in the beans, so it's like super, super nice just on toast, I think. And of course the broth is to die for. It's such a good broth because it's been like given all the time, all night just to become better and better. And I love that with slow food. And you know, it's pretty hands off, so you have to do a few things to get it together, but then it kind of just does itself. So yeah, I hope you try this recipe. It's delicious. It's very filling and satisfying. So enjoy.